Good morning, everyone. I'd prefer to be outside rather than here, but unfortunately, I'm here. So I'm going to go through the journey of what AdvancedMD went through with the electric flow. We got acquired by a private equity, which actually forced us into the thought process of how do we make our release better? How do we make sure the product to the market goes faster? And that's how our journey of the DevOps started. So AdvancedMD, myself, I'm the VP of Engineering and DevOps. I don't have the luxury to blame Ops and Dev. I still have to make sure they talk to each other. So, and here we are. That's my email address, my LinkedIn profile. But to talk about AdvancedMD, AdvancedMD is a healthcare company, and we actually serve around 8,000 physicians across the United States. Our target customer is a physician practice with 2 to 5 docs, and we impact people's life. So that's why software development at AdvancedMD is very critical. And just to give you a scenario is, if our software goes down and a physician is trying to do a surgery and they cannot access the patient document, it's a disaster. It's a disaster for the patient's life. It's a disaster for the physician, if somebody could sue them. So, and if you look at the suite of product that we support, each product need to talk to each other. There is no place where we can say, oh, this didn't work, oh, this didn't work. It impacts people's life. AdvancedMD started in 1999, a pretty old company, served independent physician practice. In 2014 is when we got acquired by private equity, and that's where our journey started with building all the products. We had only one product called practice management, pretty easy. One server, we deploy everything, works great. But as we move into the market of what we call as an upmarket or bigger needs, our platform grew from one product to, if you look at it, it's like 15, 20 products. I can't even keep a count right now how many products we are serving. So that's where AdvancedMD's DevOps journey started. And I'm going to walk you through the journey of how we went through and achieved what we do. I'll say it's a struggle. It's not a fun thing to do. It is very challenging. It impacts people's life from an engineering perspective. It impacts people that work late nights. The one luxury that we don't have in healthcare IT is even 1 second of downtime can impact something. So hence, we are still in a kind of a road where we are not fully continuous delivery, but we are making progress to make it happen. So I'll go with the journey of AdvancedMD. 2014 is when AdvancedMD only had a PM product, and all we used to deploy was on one server, and all the products used to get deployed on one server. PowerShell scripting worked amazing. It was phenomenal, and it was only 5 servers that we used to deploy. We loved those days. I was not part of those days, but I've heard people say they loved those days. But as we went through it, went through our journey, in 2016, we've realized that we need to make some change in our infrastructure. We need to get into the concept of microservices. We need to get in the concept of separation of concerns. Each product needs to own their own destiny. And that's where all the scripts that we had, we throw it out of the window. And then a group of team got together in 2016 and tried to figure it out. What tool should we use? That's how in 2016 it all got started. In a room, 15 people got together, tried to figure it out, how do we make our product delivery better? In 2017, that's where the flow was introduced, and we still had our own monolithic challenges. It was, how do we deploy the whole legacy software in one server and all this individual tiny microservices into a different service altogether? Docker was in picture, containerization came into picture. I mean, there are a lot of discussions. As you know, all the devs, they always want to implement something new every day. And it was hard for us to figure it out how we can support dev so that we don't lose people in the market, but also make sure it manages the business challenges and it takes care of the problem that we are trying to solve. 2018, we were actually implemented electric flow. So if you look at our journey, it took from 2016 to 2018, 2 years to implement an electric flow. And it's not because of flow. It's people, it's processes, tools surrounding those to it. It's a 300 people organization in the dev group, and to make sure everybody focus on one thing was hard. So that took 2 years, and I'm sure there are other challenges that we had with Flow, but those are minor challenges that we figured it out as we go through the process. But that's where 2018 we implemented Flow. And the biggest reason of Flow was, it was our success to move to AWS. So we were in the private data center, and Flow actually helped us to move into AWS. And there are various things that we went through it. The biggest support that we got from Flow was, I like to name a customer representative, Tiffany Martin. She was fantabulous. She actually helped us in each and every way where we had questions, where we were stuck into what to do. She helped us in a way to guide us, find right people who can answer our questions to move into AWS. And finally in 2019, we implemented Flow, but we're still redefining the process. It's an ever-growing journey. It's never going to complete in 2 years. So I'm sure, I mean, I want to just have a quick, there will be a lot of icons and visuals, less notes, but I want to go through some of the things that we had live before EF. Always, I mean, this is a standard thing. His fault, her fault, engineering team sucks, dev team says the machine works on my code, it's somebody else's problem, has deployed it. So that was typically, we had this problem. And the wall of confusion. I never knew until like 6 months back, if you search in Google, wall of confusion, the dev and ops actually shows up the first thing. So that's a pretty phenomenal that it is across the industry within DevOps, the wall of confusion means dev and ops. Remember in 2014, when we had one server, the knowledge was only at one people's head who was actually deploying it. It was not shared. It was within a group of people that knew exactly what to do. They knew all the steps that needs to happen. And as people were moving from jobs to job, it got harder for us to make sure how do we keep our infrastructure. So that's where our other big challenge came in, where Flow actually helped us. We had all kind of tools. I mean, it was interesting that our release engineers were actually merging code for the developers. It was amazingly interestingly. That was the first place where I saw that. We had centralized DevOps. So there were two people. It was not DevOps. It was a group of two people that somehow figured it out to build a customized tool and figure it out, okay, this code goes to there, this code can talk to this one, this configuration file can be changed from here to here. So we were using multiple tools. And when I call it tools, these are not really tools. These are creation of the need that help us to keep our infrastructure running. Hey, we were still a profitable company. It was still working well, but it was not to a point where we can scale to the next level. And the late night shows. In the healthcare world, we cannot deploy software in the middle of the night because of the impact that we are doing to it. The engineers went home at 7 o'clock. The release guys were at 8 o'clock trying to figure out how to deploy this code, how to make sure that code actually works, and then the next morning we don't have escalations around it. It was tough, and we spent numerous hours, numerous days to figure it out. We had escalations. We had customer that left us, and there were a lot of challenges through this life before EF. Now, life after EF is also not so amazing, but it's better than what we were. How do we make sure the people adapt to it? And it was an interesting question at that point because of people's nature, processes nature. We had built our customized processes around customized tools. So that was the first challenges that we had to overcome. The second one was, how do we now, it is in the finance has paid for the tool. We need to figure it out if it can be leveraged or not. So what we did was we tried to figure it out. What would be the strategy to get into the implementation of it? One of the things that we learned, we did little different is we took DevOps also with the mindset of a microservices architecture. As in the microservices world, we say each team can do their own things. We went to the same concept and we said, here are our guidelines of Flow, and you can do whatever you want to do within these guidelines. And I'll show you in one of the slides how did we implement that. So that was our next question is, how do we make a strategy or implementation so that Flow can be adopted into the organization? I tell you, people is the biggest thing. I mean, once you figure out people, how they can be part of your journey, processes can be changed as part of the journey. So that was our second struggle. The third struggle was, how do we make everybody talk to each other? It was when one of one of my predecessors came in and said, we want to implement DevOps to the operation group, and they said, that's their job, not mine. I'm the operation guy. I just want to make sure the patches are correct and my infrastructure is correct. So that was the other big challenge, was how do we make sure all people talk to each other? Customized tools. I mean, each one has their own tools to figure it out. How do we take thousands of PowerShell scripting and figure it out how to plug into Electric Flow? It is all over the place. It is in TFS, it is in Git repository, it is in somebody's laptop. How do we make sure we consolidate all these scripts over the period of a year to a single tool? And then I'm sure a lot of people have gone through this question. It's not a cheap tool. How do we make sure we get the value out of it? It's an expensive tool, and we need to make sure it provides the right value to the organization. So those are the challenges that we went through as part of the Electric Flow implementation. Now, how do we get there? I think that's the question that we were trying to figure it out. And this is the most important slide, is where we made Electric Flow as a center of kind of excellence. We said anybody can do whatever they want as long as Electric Flow's orchestration is within it. So you want to do automated builds, awesome, make it through Electric Flow. You want to do automated test, make sure the orchestration runs through Electric Flow. What tool do you use for automated test? I don't care. You can use REST APIs, you can use Neoload, you can use whatever you want. What I need a centralized place where at any given day, even though I don't have a knowledge, but I still can figure it out how to run those tools within our organization. And then we moved actually the team in 2016, when we actually moved the team into more of a DevOps concept. We said, you're the owner of it. At this point, we were still not sure whether DevOps culture would work, but we still tried for it. We siloed the teams, we moved the silos. We said, team A, you focus on delivering your product. Here is the Electric Flow. If you need to create your own server, work with operation team, make sure they actually plug in your code into Electric Flow so that whenever you need an infrastructure, you can actually run Electric Flow. You need an automation test, go work with your automation team, make sure the test gets automated through whatever tool it is there, but make sure Electric Flow can run it. So that's how what we made was Electric Flow as a center, and every team that needed to talk to each other was not by email or not via communication, was via Electric Flow. And that actually really helped us to adopt Electric Flow at a widely aspects into our organization. Again, it was hard. People were not easy to learn with, but once they figured out the power of Electric Flow, it was amazing. I mean, today, our entire operations and infrastructure and DevOps and release engineers, everybody know what Electric Flow is, how does it work, how does it orchestrate. Everybody has a skin in the game. They cannot figure out a success without each other. So Flow at AdvancedMD. Right now, if you look at it, as I said, we went to the same of microservice infrastructure, and we said Electric Flow is part of every process in our system. But what we did was, on top of it, we tied each individual different product to make it happen. For example, in the development environment, we use a CI process of Visual Studio, but we use Electric Flow orchestration. So whenever a code gets commit, we use Electric Flow to deploy, to create a release pipeline and deploy to it. So that's how it's a dev environment. Infrastructure, we use Chef, Terraform, we use 1,000 other things. But again, you can write a Chef script wherever you want. It needs to get triggered by Electric Flow. And someday our hope is Flow is actually does all those things, and we'll have to figure out that process. But we didn't want to disrupt people and what they're comfortable to it as we adopt this process. So today, again, I still don't have the large people that knows about Chef, but I have people who knows Electric Flow and how to trigger infrastructure deployment. So that's what we gain from it. From the packaging perspective, we actually use JFrog Artifactory. We also use Electric Flow artifacts. It's a mix and match, but again, even the package gets uploaded to the Artifactory. It's Electric Flow is uploading that package as a command, and then it's downloading through the build process. Deployment. Electric Flow is our deployment mechanism for vast majority of things, but there was some group that wanted Ansible to be as part of the deployment process. We actually gave full-fledged to them. I said, go do whatever you want to do with it. But we still use Electric Flow as the orchestration engine for deployment. It goes through the release process, people approve it goes through the whole process. But again, they can use Ansible to do what the thing. Validation. This is one of the things that our network operations center wanted. They wanted to make sure is whenever we deploy a code, how do we validate that things works? They actually preferred PowerShell, which was amazing. And we said, yeah, go use PowerShell. As long as I can orchestrate through Electric Flow, as long as I have somebody else that can run this for me, you can actually use any tools that you want. The next phase of our journey is to figure it out how all of those things can be combined within Electric Flow and maybe not. I mean, maybe not. It is good at what it is doing, and maybe we need help from the other products that in our infrastructure. So that's the current flow at AdvancedMD. We use Electric Flow as a center of excellence. In one summary, all teams revolves around it. Our deployments have gotten better. We still do Friday late night deployments because of the nature of the business, but it has gotten better. I mean, it has impacted engineering's lives. We are constantly innovating to figure it out. There are certain things that we can deploy at the middle of the day. There are certain things we cannot deploy. So DevOps to us is not a true DevOps. Okay, let me rephrase this one. DevOps is a word that everybody has their own implementation. Everybody thinks DevOps in a different way. Our interpretation of DevOps was we need to make sure whatever we do impacts people's life. So DevOps is a way to solve people's life and not to put into them in a place where they cannot react to an urgent situation. So to us, DevOps is more of a people thing rather than a technology thing. And the reason I preface it so much is because of healthcare. It really impacts people's life.